Muhakanizi that they have been transferring errant officials from one ministry to another instead of sacking them. A case in point is Kazinda, who was transferred from the Ministry of Water to the office of the Prime Minister after being involved in the theft of funds. We'll talk about the closure of the Uganda-DRC border, and the Ebola outbreak was, at some point we said we were clear of it. Now it's back, well, with a vengeance. 3 people have been confirmed dead so far. Our guests tonight, Honorable Stephen Mukitale Birahwa, Chairman of the Committee on the National Economy, also Member of Parliament for Buliisa. You're most welcome, Honorable Birahwa.
Thank you so much, Edmond. Good evening, Radio 1 fraternity.
We're also joined by Mr. Nicholas Opiyo, legal consultant at AKIJUL, also social and political commentator. You're most welcome, Mr. Nicholas Opiyo.
Well, thank you very much, Edmond, and to my dear panelists here and all the listeners and those who are viewing us online. And also a special thanks to all the lawyers of the East African Law Society who have converged upon Kampala for its annual general meeting. Welcome to Kampala. We're having a good discussion at Munyonyo. It ends tomorrow. So thank you very much on your behalf.
Well, talking about lawyers, we have a second lawyer in the studio, Honorable Mabike, President of the Social Democratic Party, former Makindye East MP. You're most welcome, Honorable Michael Mabike.
Thank you, Edmond. Good evening, listeners.
Now, Honorable Mabike, this week the World Bank said they were going to reconsider their aid. Normally that's polite speak or diplomatic speak, diplomatese for cutting aid or threatening to cut aid. Where is this corruption saga likely to end in your reading?
Thank you. Number one, I wouldn't like to look at the World Bank per se, but I'd like to look broadly at the donors community. The donor community apparently, I'm sorry to say, have confused themselves. You'll recall that years back, maybe from the 86 to about 94, the donors had a different procedure of disbursing their funds. Their procedure was that these funds could go directly to the internet beneficiaries. And indeed, we were in support of that because, you know, donors would sit with those in need, they identify a particular need, and they fund it. But along the way, this changed. And I was one of the people at the forefront who were against this new procedure, and we indeed warned donors in time that, you know, these funds you are now channeling through the central government are not actually being put to the intended use. They are diverted to different, and the donors, you know, in all the meetings we used to hold with them, were saying, you know, no, you are just opposing this regime, and you know, I think we think this is the right procedure. Government knows priorities, and at the end of the day, actually, we have ended up back to square one. We are in a situation where the middleman, the central government, has been truly diverting funds, has been stealing funds, has been using this.
Individuals in the government.
I'm sure this is a syndicate. This is a syndicate because these individuals stealing public funds have got patrons, and they've got big patrons.
You think that's why they are transferred instead of being
Oh yeah, and this is why you see that somebody messes up in one ministry and is transferred to another ministry. And what it is presented accusing an official, and that official, you know, is protected. So I believe that this is a syndicate. These corrupt public servants have got patrons high up, and I am sure that today what has come to light is what we were telling the donors in the first place, that please, your money, the money of your own governments and people is being misused, is being diverted, and is being stolen to satisfy
to develop the country. Well, Honorable Simon Lokodo, Reverend Father, a Catholic man, says the cabinet has called for a government-wide audit. Do you think this is the end now? We can start counting days to corruption. 100 days from now, corruption will be history.
I have said, and I want to repeat it, that corruption is an inherent movement vice.
What do you mean?
Is it the movement, the party, or movement of corruption?
That's a strong statement, but you really need to justify that. Talk to us. What do you say?
I have said before that corruption began in the bush
Which bush?
Oh, there's one bush where some people are eating chicken and others were eating wogo, you know.
Others had the right to have women. Others
Oh yeah, some had the right to women, others did have right, and we were told it is a different, very, very interesting story. But corruption is an inherent movement for us, and I am sure that even President Museveni all along has been held hostage by his Bush colleagues. And I'm sure that if President Museveni clamped down hard on the corrupt, he would have very, very few days in the
Nicholas Opiyo, give us some words defending this movement government. This is to use very, very strong language. It can't all be true.
Well, I don't speak for the movement government, but there's no denying the fact that under the movement government, we have increasingly seen cases of corruption on the rise. That, in spite of the achievements of the movement government, that cannot be denied. And I think that even people who are in government admit the same, that when all this is over and President Museveni is back home, we shall be reflecting on how corruption was one of the key issues that he failed to address in his government. Because I think that it's a very pervasive act, almost to the point that people believe it is the engine that fuels, the party and prolongs the stay in power. I have no evidence of that, but those suspicions are no doubt somewhat credible. But the point that I want to make is this, that there shouldn't be any excitement among Ugandans, because I've talked to many people, I've heard them speak on radio. They're happy that donors are cutting funds. I think there shouldn't be a cause for excitement, even if you do not like the movement government, because a cut in donor funding or donor support to our budget would have catastrophic effects of common people in Uganda, because we know for a fact that 24% of our budget is donor supported. We also know for a fact that a couple of other non-state interventions in the country are donor supported. The HIV/AIDS sector, name it, malaria, agriculture, they are donor supported. They rely heavily on donor funds. So we need donor funds. Cutting it abruptly would be catastrophic. The statement by the Minister of State for Finance, Honorable Fred March, was in itself very telling.
What did he say? Some people.
Well, he did say that if the donors cut aid, we'll have to begin to tighten our belts and begin to spend wisely, okay? Because that will have a very serious implication on our budget for this year.
And it's the poor that suffer, you think?
It is the poor that will suffer, because you see, the very foundation of donor aid, I would believe, would be to support the people of Uganda, not the government of Uganda. The government is just a conduit point. The Honorable quite ably pointed out how donor funds used to be disbursed. You take this money directly to district councils, to NGOs, the direct beneficiaries. What happened, the change of heart, was because the longer this government stayed in power, the more it became afraid of monies being in the hands of private people. In fact, even today, if you have too much money, don't be surprised to get a call from Mukitale to ask you where you got the money from.
I might be selling milk.
Well, that for them is a serious matter. So I think that donor aid is a serious issue we must look at, even if you don't like the movement government, because once donor aid is cut, it's not just Museveni and his government, but the people of this country. The second point I wish to make is just to re-emphasize what the Honorable said, that perhaps it is time to review the structure of donor aid, okay? Because donor aid now has come down to what they call a basket fund. So if you want to support human rights, you put your money in the basket fund, which is managed through government. Or indeed, if you want to invest money in the PRDP, for example, you have to do it through government, or align your programs in line with the programs of government. I think it's now time to review that. Perhaps we want to revert to what we used to have, that donor support should largely, in my view, be a dual process. It should be a national support to government in terms of budget support, but the bigger part of it, in my view, should go down to the people who benefit. Because you see, if you give donor funding to be administered by government, this is what happens. at first stroke of the pen, 30% will get lost in giving the PS airtime, fuel, for monitoring, for the minister. So you eventually reduce the amount of money that actually gets down to the actual people who are supposed to benefit from it. So we perhaps need to cut that, because it's just pure wastage. You don't require a PS or a minister. You've heard what happened in the Gavies, all these scandals. But over 200 million shillings is given to a minister for mobilization.
Yes.
That money can do a lot. If you actually give that money to perhaps a Catholic church, having a Catholic-run hospital like Lacho Hospital, like Zambia Hospital for HIV/AIDS, okay, and ask beneficiaries to directly benefit from it. So I think that it's time for us to review the structure of how we disburse aid. My view would be that a dual system with a large reliance on the private sector and indeed other non-state actors to administer donor aid would be most applicable in our situation, because government bureaucracy in many ways slows down
service delivery.
Slows down service delivery. You have a lot of wastage, a lot of risks of corruption. So I think that my view would be a dual system with a heavy reliance on non-state actors.
Right.
To administer this fund would be the most ideal situation for me.
And the individual, some people have suggested travel bans and seizing of property abroad, freezing their properties in foreign capitals. Is that something that would it have an impact?
Well, absolutely not, because you see, the point is this: most of these fellows you're issuing travel bans against are actually agents of the state. So you actually will be fighting the state of Uganda.
Well, the state can sack them,
or preventing the state of Uganda from exercising its duty, because the state.
Well, if someone's been accused of corruption, they put a travel ban on him, so he can't operate as foreign or for whatever minister. Then he's more removed from government. They put somebody else who's not incumbent.
Well, it's a decision to make that person leave office. It's a decision of the appointing authority here in Uganda. It cannot be dictated from Washington.
So you think it's illegitimate? Travel bans would not help end corruption?
It will punish those people, but may not solve the problem of corruption in our country. That's my view.
Honorable Mukitale.
Yeah, thank you so much, Edmond. Thank you so much, Nicholas and Honorable Mabike. First of all, the levels of looting and hemorrhage in this country in terms of diversion of would-be development funds, funds for service delivery, has reached a level of economic sabotage. How I wish security would look at it as economic sabotage and slap the sanctions that are equivalent. And to me, I would want to say they are guilty until proved innocent.
Would that be unconstitutional?
No, we do it for the court martial. It's done for
the French system.
Yes, the French system.
Oh, we are common law country.
Yes. No. To me, that would be the remedy, because that would also. Red Paper is giving us a lot of photos of what we should be confirming attachments. They attach that property until when you're proved innocent. I think that would make corruption risky. Secondly, it's clear that OPM, for example, is not doing what's supposed to do the monitoring. OPM is executing. OPM is implementing. OPM finds itself with a lot of money. Ministry of Finance and OPM should not be having that kind of money. The money should be in the line ministry. So that is another leakage. So we, the political class, and I'm saying this because the economic sabotage also is sabotaging the NRM party which I serve. So if some of these old people have served enough and think have looted enough, they should go and manage their businesses. There are young people in NRM who think NRM should continue. And the biggest vice in NRM right now, which is our threat, is corruption. And therefore, those who still want NRM should never allow anybody to hide in NRM and call himself corrupt. And that's why I want to request my honorable colleague Mabike not to take that line, because the looting in Kampala has been purely under opposition, and he was one of those who stood up with the mayor to fight their seniors when they were killing their future as young politicians, when their seniors had become the corrupt in Kampala. So let us not trivialize and polarize the debate. This is national resources. Corruption, nobody looks for NRM, nobody looks for your position. We should fight it head on. Now, secondly, in the financial system of the international community and the development partners, for you to get project support, it means you are a fragile state. It means you are lacking institutions, you are lacking structure, you are lacking allocative efficiency. So they don't trust that if they pool money, if they do budget support and give you money as a country, that you have a parliament which can do appropriation, that you are capable of putting money to percentages in every ministry. That is actually an indictment to a country for you to get money specific project. So at this point in time, when Uganda were beginning to say that we have moved as a country, we have moved from more than 60% donor support, we are at only 24%, which is an improvement. In terms of ranking as a country, we are now qualifying to get budget support. Get the money and allocate. You have a national development plan. You are no longer in PIP, because that budget support or that project specific money is also good for the arrangement of PIP, because people was basically
the poverty eradication,
macroeconomic stability, rehabilitation, recovery, that kind of thing. So they say in northern Uganda you have this problem, ADF here effect, TESO this problem. That kind of money was okay. But if you are saying you now want to move a leap to a country which is transforming, then you need budget support. You have an NDP already. It already has indicative figures. You know what you require to. So that's the level of confidence Uganda had reached internationally. Unfortunately, the level of corruption is negating all that. That's why anybody who cares should be very bitter. Now, targeting PRDP project. I'm one of those at the very beginning after the GMS who was opposed.
What is the GMS?
The joint, it was called the Joint Monitoring Committee. You know, at the end of the area NUSAFs, before PRDP came in, there was that all development partners were coming together to agree on how to proceed. Some of us were of the view, let us not go for recovery programs. Let us go for development projects of the north. Give people of Amur a nucleus, sugarcane growing. The debate of Madiban wouldn't arise, because they would be dealing with their own cooperative. You know, people of the east with fruits, give them a fruit factory
in Soroti.
That kind of cooperative would have by now replaced the Vanyankule Kweteranas and the mango growers and the Unyoro growers in that model. But unfortunately, we took again a people approach, we took a recovery approach, and a lot of money was given to these guys in OPM, and the results is that
the rest is history.
But the other point, because we need to look at the structurals. I want to explain the nexus between privatization, liberalization, and corruption. It started with people taking government vehicles, government houses. Then people work with government and politicians became contractors, became suppliers. Then people in government, you will find that those who are in doing relief in prime minister, they are owning trucks, they are the transporters. So there is conflict of interest. So you will find every business which is coming now in the country, you have people among the implementers supposed to be negotiating in procurement what you call a good price, good quantity, good specs for government, is actually the supplier. So that conflict of interest has created that level of corruption, because they are now dealers. The very person who is supposed to be putting government interest is actually a dealer on the other side. But this further tells you that in a country where a teacher, a policeman is paid 250,000, but has 3 kids going to the university, has 2 going to school, has to pay rent because police doesn't give him accommodation, has to pay medical because there is no free medical in the country, there is an aspect of social protection. We need to rethink if we are going to fight corruption by not paying our teachers, our medical workers, our security people a living. Because without it, how do you think they survive? That's also another area. So I don't want to go by the sentiments. I also want to look at the structures. I want to finally say, when we divested, however, government was supposed to save money from what it doesn't do best and allow the private sector to do it. To the contrary, government has saved that money and is involving itself where it should not be. A education and health in Uganda was not started by central government. It was by the missionaries. Why haven't we partnered? I've said this always. Why haven't we partnered with the Catholic Church, with the Anglican Church, with the Muslims, with faith-based to deliver education? They are the ones who found it in the first place. Then we give bursaries. If a Catholic school has 1,000 kids, they get money for that. They have better structures beyond just the numerical learning, numerical literacy. They have values they impart in an all-round student, an all-round citizen, God-fearing citizen. This cannot be found in an LOC school, which can even forget to pray in the morning. So we have, yes.
The lepers fight homosexuality.
So when we are talking of poor quality of education, we have missed it because central government is having hegemony with faith-based, which started the schools in the first place. I've always been saying here, why does in Zambia, Ruaga, Mengo, and Kibuli, with little money, have better customer care for patients? That's Mulago, which has a lot of money. It's again an area which can be revisited. I'm talking about delivery mechanism. This budget can be dispensed through other ways, including faith-based. And I want to say, on environmental matters, I've always said, on issues of wetlands, on issues of fisheries, if we used indigenous technology, if we worked with cultural institutions and gave them money, they would do better. The problem, however, today, we want to work with religious institutions, want to work with cultural institutions only when it helped us for a short purpose.
During campaigns.
Why don't we make an arrangement, an agreed arrangement where we make them accountable and they have a vote, and you say you're going to do tree planting, you're going to do Bulunji. I've said, if Jennifer worked with the Kabaka, Kampala would be clean in a week. But with government, you have spent a lot of money. So there are areas we need to revisit. Delivery mechanism is one of them. The role of the state in providing basic necessities, utilities, education, water to workers. If workers are going to be not corrupt, they must earn a living. But somebody getting 250, a policeman is investigating Kazinda with billions, not possible.
And I want to disagree with him on the basics.
Yes.
The basic is that we have a system, as described, that has gone so terribly wrong that it has reached a point that you cannot redeem it.
Why are you so pessimistic?
Oh, I'm not pessimistic. There are three characteristics of this system that has brought us to where we are now. The first characteristic is rights of untouchables. We have in Uganda elements,
people like in the opposition who speak
which are untouchables because of their long historical attachment to the struggle. That's number one. Two, the second characteristic is that of patronage. You know, in Uganda, we have built a system of patronage, whereby you go to play the sick one.
Everybody has a price tag, you say? We may not actually get there, but we have a system of patronage that actually has promoted action, and to a large extent also that lacks internal and internal checks and balances.
All right, this is Spectrum Radio. You want to go for a break? We'll be back to stay tuned.
Discover the new invigorating taste of Red Vodka Lemon. Red Vodka Lemon. Reinvent the night. Not for sale to persons under 18.
Excuse me, guys. Let me through, please. Yes.
Check this guy. Goodness, dude, what are you doing? Get real.
Just move
Just
a little.
what?
A little bit.
Man, what are you doing bringing a cow into the sitting room?
It's just for when I want milk.
Just what?
Just please move. Let it come and sit here.
What's wrong with this guy?
You cannot keep a cow in your home, but you can get the freshness of its milk straight from the farm into your home. Get fresh dairy milk for freshness straight from the farm every day. Fresh Diary, so fresh.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum. Tonight we're reviewing the week. Tales of corruption still persist despite the age of the topic. It's been on for a long time, but it refuses to go away. The yoga of corruption, government money stolen every so often. Civil society put out a statement this week saying around about 3 trillion shillings has been stolen, documented in different government projects. Our guests tonight will be talking about, we'll still talk about the Office of the Prime Minister's scandal. The Public Accounts Committee has begun to probe it. We'll be talking about that. Our guests tonight, Honorable Stephen Mukitale Birahwa, Chairman of the Committee on the National Economy, also a Member of Parliament for Buliisa County, Mr. Nicholas Opiyo, Legal Consultant at AKIJUL and a Social and Political Commentator, and Honorable Mabike, Fiery President of the Social Democratic Party, also from Makindye East. An advocate of the High Court. You might not be able to call in tonight, but you can send in your text message. Send it to 7197. That is Spectrum. Message, question or comment. Send it to 7197. Honorable Mabike, the Public Accounts Committee has begun to look at the PRDP funds under the OPM. We've heard that there was the Prime Minister Sivandi's name was mentioned. We do not know the facts, the details there, but we have also heard that Keith Muhakanizi said that some errant officials are transferred from one ministry. Kazinda was taken from Ministry of Water after being involved in the theft of funds. Where are we going with this? Now the Public Accounts Committee has taken charge. Is it going to be to resolve it eventually?
Oh yeah, to start where I ended. We are talking about the probe now in the Prime Minister's office. And we had this sad story in the Prime Minister's office because of the freedom of patronage. You know, you have people high up who protect these public officials, who keep reshuffling them from ministry to ministry. And at the end of the day, these fellows who are reshuffled continue maybe working for their own patrons when they get there. Now, what I see here is basically nothing but a syndicate. President Museveni has been at the forefront of defending Mr. Bigirimana. He has said, no, we cannot.
He launched his book in 2008.
We can't move hard on Bigirimana because he was the one who whistleblower. He was a whistleblower
on himself.
In his own ministry.
I see a situation where you have a syndicate of these public servants. They see, they misappropriate money, and when they're about to be caught, now they blow the whistle.
Oh.
I do not subscribe to the view that you cannot get hurt.
Take us through that theory once again. The syndicate theory and the blue. How does it connect with? Take us through it again.
The syndicate. I see. I mean, this has happened everywhere.
Yeah.
It has happened in Colombia. It happened in all these countries.
The people who deal with the drug cartels.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The ones who even have helicopters. Talk to us in Uganda.
You see, you syndicate. You steal public money, or you engage in crime. And when you know you're about to be nabbed, now you come out as a whistleblower to volunteer information. You know, I have discovered fraud. I have discovered this. But you are basically protected, and you find a way of covering yourself. But to me, I don't want to subscribe to the view that Bigirimana is a whistleblower. Bigirimana was part and parcel of this syndicate, and Bigirimana must leave office. And I don't know why. My friend Mr. used to be very hard on such when I worked with him. I don't know why this parliamentary resolution that Bigirimana must quit office even before this investigation takes off has been ignored. I don't know what you're doing about it. It's a very, very serious. It's a very serious matter, and it still supports my point.
We are waiting for executive response.
We have got patronage institutions. People, wrongdoers are protected by big politicians, big fish in the system. And that is why I, to some extent, disagree with my colleague, with my friend. I strongly believe that this system has gone so wrong that at this point in time we cannot redeem it, but just change it.
How do you change it? Fire the permanent secretary.
SDP.
Uganda, time has come for Ugandans to wake up. And I think there is a
people power.
There's a time, there's usually a time when people say enough is enough, and let's move. You can never underestimate the power of the people.
He's speaking like Malcolm. Nicholas.
I'll just give you 4 names.
Don't you think we should protect whistleblowers as you give us those 4 names?
Let me give you 4 names.
Yes.
First, Vijirimana, Janet Mukwaya, Gilbert Bukenya. What do these names bring to your mind in reference to corruption? Accused of corruption.
Those are 3 names. Vijirimana.
Baku, the one of NSSF.
Raphael.
No. There was a lady called Baku who was a minister of state.
Okay.
Yeah, Bakuru. What do these 4 names bring into your mind?
She wanted to exile.
People accused of corruption, and the number 1 head of state takes to public podium and says, in fact, these guys are innocent. Do you still want evidence of what he termed as a conspiracy theory?
Well, but they
don't need it.
Either they change or he carried out his own investigations.
You don't need it. The only body allowed to carry investigations and declare people innocent or guilty is the courts of law, not the president of the state. So for me, that point is driven. That there seems to be some measure of complacency in dealing with the big fish or the big guys. Perhaps because they have an indirect benefit for the party or whatever you call it. Because I think President Museveni's rhetoric of zero tolerance to corruption, my view is he hasn't walked the talk. Okay? Civil society organizations this week launched a campaign to fight corruption. The very state that says no to corruption,
we saw them at Lugogo,
that is beating up, intimidating civil society organizations. I'll tell you an example. In Padere district, the offices of Action Aid were closed on Monday. On Tuesday, the DPC, RDC, the DISO came and held everybody in that office hostage and said, make a statement, why were you closed? These are the guys saying we fight corruption. The same thing has happened in other districts.
They closed their office in protest against corruption?
Yes.
And then they had to make a statement?
Yes.
Maybe they're going for a funeral.
In Kumi, a lady called Loy is up to now still facing intimidation from the DISO.
So you're saying if it happens in the capital, upcountry, it's what we call upcountry.
If they don't see it, the media cannot report it because they don't know about it. Those of us who are involved in it know about it. So my view is, if they are actually serious about fighting corruption, in fact the NGOs are doing Museveni's bidding and say, let's help you fight corruption, you should be applauding them.
You should give them a budget,
you should be applauding them, saying, guys, please, instead of beating them up, instead of arresting people and intimidating them. The second point I want to make, perhaps could be breaking news to you, that by 4 this evening, 5 junior officials in the Ministry of Finance were interdicted.
Who are they? Give us some names.
The names...
You're not comfortable. We'll pick
some of them are my clients. I can't give you their names. Were interdicted.
You're going to defend them.
These are young civil servants who perhaps wrote loose minutes, who perhaps advised the Accountant General, have been interdicted. I'm not saying it's not a good thing or a bad thing, but the point is, if you are going hard on this little young civil servant, why aren't you going hard on Pius Jubilee? Why aren't you going hard?
It happened in the UNBS, the National Bureau of Standards. The people who are exposing people who sell sugar with iron filings were all fired. They were showing them on television, exposing people who are counterfeiting goods and selling us sugar with filings which we put in our children's tea. They were fired.
Exactly. So I think that all these parliamentary probes, we've been there, Edmond. We've been there. We've had those probes. Forgive me for being too pessimistic, but I think that these probes will not, in my view, be the answer to the fight against corruption. What I think should be an answer now is not even the court of law that I work in. Because, don't take my word, I might be excited. Take the words of the heads, the past 2 heads of the anti-corruption court.
What did they say?
Justice Katusi. What did he say? That trials before that court are now a mockery of justice. The same statement were repeated by Justice Vigumba, the one who actually had this last case. He said the same thing, that the DPP brings cases here they can't win. Botched up trials. So I think that courts cannot answer our fight against corruption. I think that the fight against corruption must be taken to the people. It is now a social fight.
How do they do it?
It's a social fight. We are going to begin to isolate people who have benefited from corrupt.
How do you isolate? Give us a class.
It's very clear. If Minister X owns Hotel Y, we know he stole money.
Don't buy Coca-Cola from them.
Don't go and take your weddings to that hotel. Don't take your meetings to that hotel room. Please, just don't. If they come to your churches, you are a pastor, tell them not to give money to the church. Let them go away. Let them do
But
the
I might be
same thing.
looking to build a church.
Let them do the same thing the Catholic
some
Church
windows.
did to Hope Messenger. Father Gaetano.
Yeah.
Good example. We will fight corruption if we begin to do that.
Honorable Mukitale.
Yeah, I would want to urge the police of Uganda and those in security to treat corruption as economic sabotage. Sort of that, the corrupt are going to hold us hostage. Just in the parliament last week and this week, we've been discussing the Chambogo saga. And clearly you can see any reformist being held hostage by the corrupt because they don't want you to break the systems. And this is what is happening in these other areas. For me, I'm getting frustrated. I am saying they should be held guilty until proved innocent. And because we don't seem to be getting answers from the institutions, there's so many institutions, the IGG, the CID, you wonder, are there no internal audits in these ministries? Because it's as if all the system has corrupt. That's why for me, I want us, as they go through the legal semantics of these lawyers, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't law, by the way, because as a young man I was given a story of a lawyer defending somebody who truly killed, and I took it personal and I missed law. But I only found that they are also very useful lawyers when there was time of need. And I met law, administrative law, international law at periphery, doing my other academic
And now you're making law,
but I want to say we need some public court. We need some barazas. We need some shame list. If the church, if the faith-based organizations start shunning gifts from the corrupt, I think that would be a development.
How do we do it? You drop your gift
currently. No.
They are front row
When you go in church, you are ushered the most France if you are a good contributor. I think that's one way. Because this, even in politics, by the way, before I talk, I shouldn't be targeting the church. Our leaders, the community. If you work for 15 years and you don't have a good thing at home, they say this boy is a fool. If a boy has Kazindaism and in 2 years he has a multi-billion house and is doing this, then this is the right guy.
Kazindaism.
Kazindaism.
All right.
These are the guys who are now politics. This individual merit also introduces the purchase of votes. Right. So that's another problem. But I want to say, I want to say that let us be aware that if the systems, if the elite, the political class fail to fight the vice of corruption, the jobless young people,
they'll take it up.
USE products are going to go on the streets.
We have to move forward.
So the police should support the NGOs now instead of waiting for that time when there will be a revolution by the landless, by the poor, by the jobless.
We have to move forward.
That is coming if we don't act
You
now.
spoke about Kazinda, but you've been to Kazinda's house. What are you going to do in Kazinda's house very early in the one morning?
No. One time I was waiting for somebody in the neighborhood of Kazinda, and I saw the guy was far. I said, "Give me 20 minutes." I said, "Why did I get a cup of tea from this nice hotel?" So the gate was opened, and I was requesting to be given a garden seat. That was early hours, only to be told somebody's home. So I was shocked because what was 3-star hotel.
We have to move forward.
Let's talk about the share a personal story.
Very briefly.
One of my very uneducated aunties who didn't go to school, when he went for family meeting, he told my father, "Your son said you are educated. I don't see huge houses here." Which schools did they go to?
Well, the other one is in Matuga, where I went also in 2004. The man who had cosmetics also has a huge house. I went for a cup of tea, there was nothing.
Honorable Mabike, the Uganda border has been closed. It was closed, and then I think it was opened at the Bunagana point after a request from the DRC government, ostensibly, that of course followed a revelation that the M23 rebels were collecting revenue from the other side and using it to pay for their own rebellion. What's your take about this development? Do you think it's the right thing to close that border? And does it also justify, where does it exonerate the government, that's been it's not supporting the M23 rebels?
I want to say that Uganda has had a very non-transparent approach to foreign relations, especially with the neighbors. And this has also been a characteristic of the NRM. You will recall that when the Rwandese, RPA, went into Rwanda,
October 90.
When President was asked, he said,
he was at the UN at that time.
I didn't know. I didn't know. Uganda went into Congo to remove Mobutu,
and he wasn't told.
And he said, I mean, it is until when our forces were nearly in Goma that government issued a statement that where we are in. You know that Uganda also went into Sudan at one time to fish out coal. But until deep 200 kilometers inside Sudan, that is when the president came out and said, well, yes, we are there. But initially, there were denials. So, I don't think that Uganda is telling us the truth. I don't think that government is telling us the truth about what they know on the M23 rebels.
But they've closed the border.
Is the border actually closed?
The usual games.
Is the border actually closed?
The usual games.
Maybe the wind blew the gate open again after they
left. These are the usual games, and I think they are very dangerous games. We need to have a more transparent foreign policy, especially in relation to dealing with our neighbors.
What's your view? Do you think we're supporting the M23 rebels?
I've been disturbed by a statement that was issued by the Minister of State for African Regional Cooperation, Mr. Honorable. Writing at the height of the UN report and the allegations that Uganda is involved and Rwanda is involved, he said, well, I think, okay, amidst all this, we shall find a way of talking to the M23 rebels. I mean, if you have gone on this way.
Well, but they are in Kampala. The government has accepted that. They are in Kampala. We are trying to broker. The government is trying to broker peace between the M23 rebels and the Kinshasa.
If government is trying to broker a peace deal,
yes,
it is because of pressure. But initially, I think they were involved, and we know of the unwritten and unsaid motive of trying to break Congo into two and having it joined as part of the East African.
Well, but you can join as well as it is now. We'll have an open, coast-to-coast access, Mombasa to Kinshasa. Nicholas Opiyo, what's your view? Do you think we're really supporting the rebels, and is it a good thing for us to close the border?
Well, first, just to point out that the UN Security Council is now discussing the report that Uganda has so much trashed. Okay, so all the noise we've been making have in effect not led to the withdrawal of the report. The report is being discussed.
The noise the government has made? The noise being made by who?
By the government of Uganda. We didn't see Ban Ki-moon flying into Kampala like he did when Rwanda made noise, So this report is now being discussed. What you're seeing happening at the UN are sharp disagreements between different blocs. You have South Africa, you have Rwanda, you have other people who are saying, maybe let's not be too harsh. But you have other countries who are actually saying, let's look at sanctions against these states who are alleged to be supporting the M23. But in direct response to what you've asked, the question should be, is Uganda involved in the DRC? Yes, we are. Yes, we have been for a very long time. Because we actually have legitimate interests.
We allow trucks to drive.
Yeah, we have exported war. We've exported 2 wars to Congo, the LRA, the ADF. So we actually do have legitimate interest to deal with our security concerns in Eastern DRC. The way that we've gone about it is what Honorable says, is ugly. It's simply dishonest. I think that what the government of Uganda is doing is sending mixed signals. You just have to look back at what happened when this story broke. You have Uganda's ambassador in Congo, Major Chinove. You have Okello Oryem profusely sweating and rushing to a press conference even before he read the report. You have the Minister of Defense giving a detailed interview to a daily newspaper in Uganda. All of these messages are not consistent. It speaks to a government that is not sure how to respond to what actually could be a very credible report. But also, more importantly, the people whose names are mentioned in this report, the Nguse of police, Uganda Police Force, Kale Kaihura,
You've seen that report yourself?
Yes, I have. It's in the Daily Monitor for tomorrow. You can look at it. I have read the report. The
entire report or excerpts?
Well, the entire report. Individuals, I'm not doing bidding for the Daily Monitor, but you go and read it.
Well, it's a fact. It's a fact.
It's a fact. But the Daily Monitor has reported it. So individual persons have been mentioned in this report. What we have not had is these persons coming up to explain to us. Because what happened to Rwanda, when Rwanda was accused, Rwanda refused that they're not involved. But it actually put under house arrest five of its own generals. They still remain to date under house arrest.
That's serious. Honorable.
You see, DRC is our neighbor, and anything which goes wrong in DRC will affect us naturally. We wouldn't want a backlash. At a time when we're talking of economic integration as a region, when we're looking at DRC becoming a member, it's unfortunate. But whether we're exporting war or not, I would like to ask a question. Did Tanzania export war to Uganda or liberated Uganda? And therefore and then from there we can say, did we export war to Rwanda? Did we export war to DRC or Sudan? So I don't want. I want to leave that at the, but very interestingly, DRC is unfortunate that proxy wars of DRC from the time of Cold War have not ceased. You remember the elimination of Lumumba was not because of the Congolese interest. It was because of the external interest. So the proxy wars have continued. You remember even with the so-called Uganda-Rwanda liberation of DRC, when Senior Kabila penetrated the center, he wanted to make some reforms, including changing some concessionaires and licenses in the mineral wells. And that did not augur well for those who the status quo. They had to do everything to eliminate him. So Congo is a place where the happening of all sorts of deals, international conflicts do exist. It has uranium, it has a lot of other minerals than what we talk of here. And in all these conflicts, even those who you may hear that are talking, I am not so happy at this point in time in the era of integration to hear somebody saying that the solution of DRC is dividing it. It is not far from that. Far from that, because if you know, because one of the reasons why the French advocated for Lingala as a language, because DRC was found to have more than 350 local languages.
Now they have one.
So they picked the minority of the minority. The Bangala was the most minority to try and unify this, and largely they had almost achieved that.
Right.
If it wasn't for the foreign interest. So for me, I cannot speak for balkanizing Africa, knowing that the struggle we have gone through balkanizing Africa, we still have these boundaries. What we need today is interconnectivity.
All right.
We need to integrate. The telecom is doing it. Okay. Let's have optic fibers. Right. Let's have pipelines. Let's have joint refineries. Let's have the railway lines.
All right. We have to move
and
forward.
Airways. That's what we need.
Not
so many chiefs in charge of some tribes.
Honorable Mabike, let's talk about Ebola. The Ebola outbreak was officially, we had that it had been, we had declared Ebola free. Then we have here news that in Luero district, some people have died already. 3 people, 2 from the same family. 2 other people are in an isolation unit at Mulago Hospital in the capitals. They say 70 people died in July. We know that on the record. And there was Mabike as well. How are we going to end this thing altogether?
Well, the Ebola issue is disturbing. And it all boils down to the debate that my friend, Honorable Birahwa had in Parliament. How do you reduce on non-priority spending to actually beef up?
What do you mean non-priority?
Workshops, photocopy,
travels abroad, advertising.
Well, but you need advertising for transparency, accountability purposes. Go on.
No, how do you reduce on all that and really put more money in the health sector? Because Ebola is coming at a time when we think that our health network is run down, our health network lacks the basics, and it lacks the real personnel that should be able to handle this kind of attack. So we are worried, and I think now the argument in Parliament becomes more relevant. We need more money into our health sector. sector so that our personnel can be able to handle.
Nicholas Opiyo.
The people of Gulu suffered the deadliest Ebola outbreak in this country for a very long time. We lost Dr. Matthew Nukuya. The graves of people who have died treating Ebola suspects and victims still lie in Gulu. They are a sad reminder of the danger that Ebola brings, that it must be handled expeditiously and quickly. But take a walk down the streets of Kampala, people are still hugging, people are shaking hands, churches are organizing massive gatherings. We haven't told our people what to do to prevent Ebola. Even when Ebola was in Western Uganda, it was a Western Uganda problem. We didn't care in Kampala, we didn't care in Mbale. We need to begin to be very proactive, not wait for Ebola to break, then begin to have money, let's get volunteers, let's get Red Cross. We have to be a bit on our feet and do preventive measures.
Honorable Birahwa.
Yeah, the fact that we had Ebola a few months ago, a recurrence, now Mabike has been Kabale. You saw how the minister was being held at ransom by the market dwellers, forcing her to open the market. It's clear that we have not had the national alert.
All right.
And I'm scared that we will do, if we don't do that, this recurrence will continue. It also gives a question, it's questioning if the surveillance we are doing it correct. So we need to invest more in having a real national alert to avoid all these gatherings as much as possible.
Okay.
Increase surveillance, but also this country needs more money in virus research because most of it is largely done by development partners. We need to put more money for that, and I agree entirely. We need to put more money in the health sector as a priority, more so at this point in time when we see a lot of wastage.
Thank you very much indeed, our dear guest. Honorable Stephen Mukitale Birahwa, Chairman of the Committee on the National Economy, also MP for Buliisa County. Thank you for coming tonight. Mr. Nicholas Opiyo, Legal Consultant at AKIJUL, also Social and Political Commentator. Honorable Mabike, President of the Social Democratic Party, shoots with two guns. Former Makindye. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond. So have a very good weekend. Up next is the news in English.
It's the time again.